Hello and welcome in for your reading. Let's get started with laying out your cards. Okay, I'm going to look at spiritual lesson, your current mood or state, the root of that mood or state, and then any blockage or catalyst for change that you need to know about. Also be looking at strengths and weaknesses that are either working for you or against you right now. Okay. All right. So, and I'll show you the cards as we go. We've got Six of Swords, Eight of Wands, Hierophant upside down, Four of Swords upside down, Strengths and Weaknesses, Strength, the Star, Weakness, King of Wands. Now, I'm going to start there. That's an interesting message because the Star, your strength, you are either in the midst of healing or you're about to embark upon this healing. But what is important to know about this is you're coming back into alignment with your soul or yourself. You've been off. This is about putting yourself back together and rekindling the energy or the hope. Now, what is coming through is that as you're going through this process, yes, you're feeling like this moment of coming back together, you also feel as though you're lacking direction. And I think this is an interesting combination of cards to have because when you're sick, when you're trying to get better, the first thing you need to do is rest. And King of Wands upside down absolutely says that to me. Don't take any action right now. This is about resting. This is about coming back together. But it's interesting that this is in the weakness position because it's also saying not taking action is a kind of weakness. But I want to ask which way we are to go with this. This is about not taking action until you're absolutely ready. So in a way, this King of Wands upside down is encouraging you to wait. It's encouraging you to really make sure that you're in alignment with yourself, that your intentions and your actions and your words and your thoughts are all in one place. They're aligned, kind of the way I'm holding these cards. These are aligned cards. And it's funny because she's pouring into the water, which you would expect to have a reflection, and then he's an upside down reflection. So there's a wholeness here going on. This is also a period of self-reflection going inside to understand your course of action. But I also feel like this is less about figuring out your course of action and more about figuring out your new self. Who are you really? And your current state right now, we've got the Four of Swords. And again, it's like we don't have a plan. We don't know where we're going. We can't see what to manifest next. And the root of this, we've got High Priestess upside down. So there's been a commitment that has been turned on its head. There's been an agreement that you've made that is broken, that seems like it can't hold together. I think this is also good. This is an energy of release, that there are old ways of thinking that you've been challenging and you've been not wanting to go that way. But the problem is now, challenging the old means that we need to think of what is the new way forward. Otherwise, we just go back to the old. This is a time-old pattern when you look at countries that have revolutions and they topple a dictator only to have another one that's just as bad come and sit at the helm. It's because the fabric of society did not change enough, right? They may have cut off the top of the fabric, but they didn't actually then reorient themselves to what that means. So if you've let go of a strong relationship or a strong core belief, there is a lot of reshuffling that you have to do in order to realize who you are now. Because when you change your identity, when we let go of something that then causes us to question and change your identity, that new self has different wants and different needs. And what happens is a lot of times, because it's not magic, we don't just flick a switch and then we're all of a sudden in the new place. There's half of us, there's parts of us that are in the new, there's parts of our psyche that are still rooted in the old. It's not an abrupt costume change. There's parts that are ready and far forward, and then there's other parts that are lingering, and you have to kind of massage those parts of you until everything is ready to go in the same direction. So if you are not taking the time to think about how this paradigm shift or this relationship commitment changing, dropping, or this belief system being expanded, if you haven't thought about how this changes your identity as a person, that is where you need to be directing your thoughts. How does this change who I am? Because who I am is going to tell me what I need. It's going to tell me what I want. But it's no good holding on to the old who you are, because that will have you wanting the wrong things, right? I decided somewhere, I think I was 15 or 16, that I didn't want to eat meat. So my new identity of self was someone who didn't eat meat. Now, it doesn't make any sense for me to keep asking for meat because I'm not going to actually eat it. But that's what happens when we have some kind of life-changing event that makes us question who we are, but yet we still think we desire what we wanted before. Eight of Wands, catalyst for change, putting out into the future something new, movement, getting yourself going. With all of these reversal cards about not having direction, that's a different message from the Eight of Wands. So the Eight of Wands is urging you forward, urging you to start to put plans into motion, to start to ask for what you want. And the way you're going to know if you're on the right track, so you're thinking about, okay, how has this changed? How has this changed me? Now I think I want this, and then I want that, and then I want that. And so if you're onto a desire that is aligned with your new self, it's going to snowball into other desires. If you start to say, okay, well, I'm new now and I want X, and then there's just silence, you're not quite aligned yet. You're not totally in tune with this new self, and that's all right. It just means more questioning, more exploring. Because ultimately the spiritual lesson you're dealing with right now is the Six of Swords. What does it truly mean to heal? What does it truly mean to move on? And what's so fascinating, we've got a lot of water here with our star from the beginning, the water, water, water. Six of Swords talks about healing. But this is interesting because it's showed on the water, because water is the passage across, but it's a sword card. It's mental. So what does it really mean to heal? It means that you're healing emotionally, but you're also healing mentally. It means that these two areas are inseparable. There's actually quite a nice, I love the artwork here. There's a nice gradation from the water into the sky. Even though there are two separate colors, it's a smooth transition. And same here. We have this smooth transition from the water into the land. It's about understanding that emotions and thoughts are connected and they both need to be healed. Emotional healing cannot happen without your thoughts also healing themselves. And your thoughts becoming different also need to have a corresponding emotional response. This is the work that is tough to be patient about, but it is really important to be aware that that's what's happening, is that as you heal, you bring these two sides back together, the thoughts and the emotions back together, because they create each other in a way. It depends a little bit on your personal astrology, but for the most part, there's a feedback loop where your emotions trigger a thought, but actually it's a thought beforehand, an old thought, like a belief system that triggers the emotion in the first place, and then you get these superficial thoughts that come up from that. These thoughts create more emotion and you're stuck in this thing. So negative spiral, not just thing. So this is about understanding that healing is not just about getting over something emotionally or being over it in your mind. It's being over it, healing in both places. When you cut yourself, there's two parts that are not joined, right? And healing means the skin has to knit those two parts back together. That's what that's what's happened here. We're knitting the thoughts and the emotions back together so that you can have this full alignment. And when the thoughts and the emotions are back together, not only will your actions be more powerful, but they will be more directed, and they will be more sincere, and they will have more power behind them. All right? So alignment is really important because alignment is what allows us to have our maximum power with minimum effort. And you can see this on the physical level, but also on the emotional, spiritual level too. You think of, or you watch natural athletes, or you watch natural musicians, people that just have this natural talent, you'll see that they have kind of a good natural spine bone alignment, and that's what helps them be so good at what they're doing. And we can do this psychically too. When we have our thoughts and our emotions aligned, our actions are so much more meaningful and purposeful because we're not second guessing, or we're not kind of missing the mark. We're doing this deliberate action that is in line with our soul and in line with our spirit. So overall message is about getting centered again. Let's close with an oracle card. I always say an oracle card, and it always ends up being 2. Be spontaneous in illumination. Big moon energies here. I think we're coming up to an Aries new moon. I think that's right, because we're at the end of Pisces season. So it looks like this is a message about the moon. And look at this. This is amazing to me. This could be actually just one card, right? One fairy into another. So I feel like this is actually a message of timing to get yourself in alignment by the time of the new moon, because what you are wanting, this direction, King of Wands, it will become like this. During this time of the new moon, we really need to be clear about what our direction is. So this is also interesting because King of Wands also correlates to Aries energy. It's the Aries full moon that we're looking into. And look at that, full moon, new moon. So we won't see it, all right? But, like, we physically won't see it in the sky, but it is important to have our known course of action figured out by then, all right? Our direction, so if you, slow down, Adriana. If you do the work to align and heal your thoughts and your emotions so that everyone and everything is on the same page, then you figure out which way you want your action to go. The new moon will help you bring that to fruition by the full moon, which will be later in the month. And interesting that we talked about a commitment breaking apart. That full moon will be in Libra. So that is the energy, the sign of partnerships and relationships. So this is really important to heal this all together so that it can come into culmination by the middle of next month. All right, so I would say, I'm not exactly sure, this will be another little bit of your homework. Look up when the Aries new moon is, because that is the time frame for this healing to take place. If you are actively working on it, then you will reap the benefits when it's time to choose that direction and everything moves forward. Okay, thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon.